So yeah, what we're seeing here is a set of matches at Ryogoku Kakujikan Sumo Hall on Friday, June 9th. Show will begin at about 5 a.m. Eastern Time. And we're seeing on top a couple of tag team matches with mixed teams. So we're seeing not so much on top anyway, not so much New Japan versus Noah or All Japan versus anybody else, but a mix. So the main event of this one, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kento Miyahara from All Japan. And if you haven't seen, I know it's not easy to see All Japan as it is some of these other companies and things, but Kento Miyahara is one of the best wrestlers on earth. Kaito Kiyomiya is amazing, and Noah, we've seen him. He's going to be in the G1. They're going to be facing Kazuchika Okada, Yuma Aoyagi from All Japan, and Kenoh from Noah. What a mix of talent in one match, Justin. You look at Kiyomiya and Kenoh in there with Tanahashi, Okada, and then the All Japan guys. This just has the potential to be a pretty tremendous six-man.
I mean, it's the ultimate dream match, isn't it? It's kind of like the six of the top modern Japanese pro wrestlers from New Japan, All Japan, Pro Wrestling Noah. I think there will be a lot of sub stories and mini stories within the match itself. How Kiyomiya relates and reacts with other people on his team in the match. Kenoh has already said he has his mind locked on Okada Aoyagi for this match, even though they're his partners. So
that'll be interesting.
Not only just a great match, but very interesting capacity for all kinds of different things to happen.
Yeah, and it does seem like there could be some twists and turns in this one as far as partners not getting along or surprisingly getting along. There's just different paths they could take in this one that I'm really looking forward to.
I'm really interested in the Okada and Tanahashi being on opposite sides while they're currently co-champions as well. So there's a little something for everybody going on this one.
So
we'll see who makes contact. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have these matches and you notice that maybe this person and that person didn't make contact with each other in the match. They didn't even touch. So, hey, who knows? We'll see what happens.
And then we have a pretty nice mix in a junior heavyweight division here. We have Amasuka, Atsuki Aoyagi. He's the All Japan guy. Amasuka's with Noah. And they're teaming up with Hiromu Takahashi from New Japan. And they're going to be facing Master Wato, also from New Japan, of course. And then Rising Hayato from All Japan and Hayata from Noah. So, Justin, I have to admit that I'm familiar with Amasuka. Hayata, not so much. And what can you tell us about him and what story they might be telling with Amasuka and Hayata in this one from the Noah perspective?
I mean, what to expect? A lot of flying, no doubt. I don't know what to expect exactly. Hayata's current GHC heavyweight champion. And he and Amasuka just got into it. That's who he beat for the title last month. So actually, it might be 2 months ago now. No, a month ago. Yeah. Don't sleep on anybody in this match, especially the two All Japan guys. Atsuki Aoyagi is the brother of Yuma Aoyagi, who's in the main event. He made a quick appearance in MLW a couple of years ago, but he's an excellent junior heavyweight, and he's also still buddies with Mr. Rising Hayato, who was this great kind of indie talent for quite a while until he got locked into the All Japan deal with the Aoyagis and Kento and such. It'll be exciting. And I mean, with somebody like Hiromu Takahashi leading the pack, I'm not worried about the entertainment value, for sure.
No, it should be an air show. And what we have here, I suppose, is the top junior heavyweight rivalry from each company kind of paired off, so to speak, on each side. So it should be interesting to see. And I'm curious here, too, for the All Japan guys in particular. I feel like they're really going to be hitting on every cylinder they can, because the Noah guys have had the big Great Muta retirement show at the Tokyo Dome. there's been the Wrestle Kingdom things. Noah has their own shows going, and so does All Japan. But All Japan's audience not as big as Noah's in New Japan. I think All Japan is seeing the All Japan guys are going to see this as a real opportunity to impress people that they may not normally have seen them, so to speak. And All Japan is a long running company, of course, and it's perfectly. I'm not trying to say that there's some upstart company that's barely hanging on. That's not what I'm saying. But both Noah and New Japan have had major shows in front of big crowds this year in domes and All Japan hasn't quite had that. So I feel like they're going to be particularly motivated to shine in these matches.
Yeah, All Japan. This current iteration of All Japan, the 2013 till now version, the name is similar, but in the paperwork, it is technically a different company, and there are connections to the old IP and such, but management is much different, especially since even 2 years ago. So the scene over there, a lot of people like to talk about how great the talent is, but the backstage is just not clicking. Like you said, it's not unfair to say that they're not as popular as they once were, but it's just a different system. And thankfully, they have been blessed with such a unique and almost lucky a depth of talent on the roster, especially we've seen a couple right now, both Aoyagi brothers, Miyahara, Rising Hayato, and we're going to see Shuji Ishikawa on the show, Suwama. That really carries them through, and I think they deserve to be on a grand stage. It was really cool to see the All Japan team at the Tokyo Dome. Mm-hmm. Someone like Kento Miyahara really definitely deserves to be on a big stage like that. So I think, like you mentioned earlier, the Muto final, this is kind of like another chance for everybody else to get. Maybe they can shine. If you got the goods, let's see it. And the same for that All-Star Junior tournament that was a couple months ago too. I'm happy that there'll be more and more chances for everybody to get their shot, to show everybody that it's not just a one or two company country. You know what I mean? There's a lot of talent that just hasn't been seen yet.
And the next one we have is a little bit more of the Noah guys in here with this one. This one is one company against the other. We have from just.
I was so happy they booked this match. I said at the end of last match.
SANADA, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and TAKA Michinoku taking on Jake Lee, Yohei, and Tadasuke from Noah. This should be exciting. And, Kanemaru having a bit of a resurgence this year, having one of his better years in a long time. He's broken away a little bit from his Suzuki-gun act and is doing some interesting things. Taka, don't call him the legend, Michinoku is probably going to take the fall because he always does. And you have the world heavyweight champion here, SANADA. But Jake Lee, Yohei, and Tadasuke, this is an interesting threesome here. What can you tell? So Jake Lee, I believe, isn't he the current GHC heavyweight champion, correct?
He is the junior, not junior, GHC heavyweight champion, while Tadasuke and Yohei are currently the GHC junior heavyweight tag team champions. We just had a great match in Shinjuku last week, and they'll face Chris Ridgway, who's on this show, with Daga for those titles this month. And you mentioned Kanemaru. You got to remember, he was one of those. To me, him, Marufuji, and Kento, and Morishima and Sugiura were the top guys who weren't, not the Shitenno, like the big four guys carrying the company, but also Kanemaru was Noah to me, and he left New Japan from Noah as doing the Suzuki-gun thing. So I'm really interested to see his interactions in this. I think Kanemaru does not get the respect he probably deserves. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, I thought it was going to be Kanemaru, the pink shorts guy, that was going to be the big star over Marufuji and Kenta when all those guys were coming up like as juniors. Kanemaru does not get the credit he deserves. I hope he can I want to see him in Tadasuke. I want to see him in Yohei. I think they'll just have great exchanges. And Taka too, of course. But also, we got SANADA, we got Jake Lee. The thing that people aren't picking up on, we got to remember, it was a couple years ago. There was, I believe it was a Giant Baba Memorial Show. You guys remember that?
Yes.
It's kind of not as big scale as this, but same idea, kind of dream matches. And there were a couple exchanges between SANADA and Jake Lee. And I do remember that Jake Lee got caught up in the Paradise Lock. He was pretty embarrassed back at that show. He got a big old kick in the rear. So, I mean, these little seeds, they're planted, they're there. And now both are champions. Both are on the top of their companies. It's much different context this time, but these two have crossed paths. And I'm very interested to see how all of these guys, a lot of guys in this match, let's see what happens. It's very interesting.
So I was super excited about the fact that they are actually doing just 5 guys versus good-looking guys. For whatever reason, that just tickled me pink. But speaking of the color pink and red, Tadasuke was in Congo, and he's no longer anymore. Can you give a little background on that?
They split, Congo has been slowly dissolving over this year. This was actually, I believe, when they got back together, they were in Rattels together, these two. These guys were a team previously with others. So after a match, they decided to hook up. Later that night, they joined up with Jake and GLG. And I guess the story is still yet to be told. There's not too much detail on it. It's just, they were there, available. And Jake Lee said in an interview, it's like, hey, I'm not going to turn them away. I think they're good. Now they're GLG. Good-looking guys.
Good-looking guys.
And it's also part of, like, Jake Lee. He's capitalizing on what he has in the moment. He just got to Noah January 1st.
Changing the face of Noah.
Yeah, he calls himself the Black Savior. He came in, he just immediately nabbed Jack Morris to be part of his group. He nabbed Anthony Green right off the airplane. They gave him a shirt right as soon as he stepped into Japan. He grabbed Tadasuke and Yohei right there when they split, when Tadasuke left Congo and joined up with Yohei. That's Jake Lee is capitalizing on what he has, and he's, as he likes to say, he's getting to learn his history and kind of absorb all of these characters and wrestlers he's coming across. Just like a Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat, he's absorbing their soul and adding it to his repertoire and his own his history, as he says. So I think at the end of the day, the big and most interesting part of this is going to be how SANADA and Jake Lee team off, square off, what's going to happen, and how is Jake Lee going to come back and save face this time?
All right.
And the next match after that will be LIJ, 3 of them, Tetsuya Naito, Shingo Takagi, and Bushi, against Yuji Nagata, Suwama, and Yuma Anzai. Now, we had the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion in the previous match, the GHC Champion in the previous match. Yuji Nagata is the current Triple Crown Champion, which is All Japan's top title, and has been for quite a while. I think it was the late 80s when they established the Triple Crown. And what we're looking at here is a little bit of LIJ facing this All Japan group with that New Japan tinge. Yuji Nagata later this month is going to do his Blue Justice show, promoted show for New Japan. So Nagata is towing the line between these two companies, but he comes in here with his All Japan team against Naito, Takagi, and Bushi. So be interesting to see Nagata as the Triple Crown champion in there with Naito, but should be interesting. And of course, you see Suwama right there, and you can't imagine that Suwama is going to do anything but go straight after Shingo Takagi.
The interesting part of this match is how much bigger in terms of size the All Japan is compared with the LIJ guys. Not too much, but in general, Yuma Anzai is a very young stud in All Japan, and I believe he has a title shot at Nagata soon. Suwama is the ultimate new generation All Japan stalwart. I'm sure he and Shingo Takagi will get into it and yell at each other a lot, which we'll all enjoy. But with Nagata in there, I mean, he is Triple Crown champion, but I mean, he's he's New Japan through and through, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just so there's less. I mean, of course it's going to be good, but compared to the other matches, I think there's, we've seen Nagato with all the New Japan guys, so we know what to expect. I imagine it'll be good, but I don't know if we'll see any, curveballs or anything. Yeah. I just think we'll see great lineup between these 6 guys.
Yeah, and then the next one promises a lot of good action as well, but a similar thing that it might not be the biggest storyline type of match here, but we have the United Empire, Francesco Akira, TJP, Aaron Henare, Great-O-Khan, Jeff Cobb against Jun Saito, Rei Saito, Ryuki Honda, Hikaru Sato, and Dan Tamura. That's the All Japan crew there on the right as you're looking at the graphic right here. So again, whenever you're in a 10-man tag, it tends to be full speed ahead. Everybody get their stuff in. Everybody gets a little chance to show off their big moves. We're probably going to see that, and then it'll all just kind of devolve into a finish. But when you have 10 guys in a match, there's not a lot of time for anyone one thing to shine. It just tends to be everybody gets a little bit of their stuff in and shows off a little. That's what I'm anticipating from this one, unless you guys see it differently.
No.
I imagine All Japan guys catching a lot of the smaller New Japan guys because of how big most of this All Japan team is. So the Saito brothers, they're ex-sumo, who've been training pro wrestling for the past couple of years. They started out pretty prim and proper, basic, and now they've grown their hair out and aligned themselves with that evil Suwama voodoo murders deal. Yuki Honda is absolutely, I would say amazing, especially for his age. He's kind of a superstar rookie sophomore. He just got this new Shuji Kondo haircut. I don't know what's going on with that. Can't speak to it, but I love to see him and Jeff Cobb get into it. I love to see him and Hanare get into it. Hikaru Sato, another very interesting, unique character. Not officially All Japan, in terms of contracts, but he's been with that company as a regular for years and years now, and was one of Mr. Aoki, the late Aoki's best students. So at X Pancrase, kind of like, I think in years he'll end up being a new Minoru Suzuki type, being like he's got a really cool, legitimate background, but also has no qualms with being silly if he needs to. He always adapts to the situation, and I want to see how he interacts in this match. And don't sleep on Dan Tamura as one of the best, again, rookie sophomore types. He reminds me of he looks like Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes. And that endears me. I really do like him a lot. I think it's again, back to what we were talking about earlier. I don't know what other stage he would have to be on to show his stuff because of the size of All Japan right now. But I really think he and Yuki Honda are 2 guys that really deserve to be seen by a lot of people. They're simply very good. Very, very good. I want to see how they work out with all these guys. But yeah, the hair, the teeth, he's Calvin. I can imagine, pissing on a New Japan flag or something. You know what I mean?
As Calvin has in the back of many a pickup truck. So we have next one, Ren Narita, El Desperado, and Minoru Suzuki. Speaking of strong style. Strong
style
against Naomi Marufuji, Takashi Segura, and Junta Miyawaki. Sorry, Miyawaki. Sorry about that. I tripped over that one bad.
I am very hyped for this match.
Yeah, I am too. And the Marufuji. So for New Japan fans, if you've only been watching New Japan and nothing else, you may remember Naomi Marufuji. He was actually in the G1 several years ago. It's been a few, but he was in it. Pinned Okada in that tournament and ended up getting an IWGP title shot out of it. And both matches were absolutely wonderful. And Takashi Segura, my story on him, Segura and Go Shiozaki were in the main event of the show I saw at Korakuen Hall when I was there for the N1 tournament in 2019. So he's always going to have a spot in my heart. Boy, was that match hard hitting.
Oh, was that the 1 hour match?
Wasn't the 1 hour match. No, this is part of the N1 tournament there. And Segura ended up beating Shiozaki there. It was a fantastic match. A really fun night. I got to, and then, like I said, that was my experience at Korakuen. So I was thrilled to be there for that. And Milwaukee here. So, these are three guys. Ren Narita, relatively new with the veterans, but you got a lot of guys here that know what they're doing.
This is another sleeper match. This will be very good. It's really, it's got a nice mix. Desperado, I mean, he's coming out of nowhere. Every time I see him, he's doing something cool and new and different. And I saw he was all bloodied up this weekend in GCW. Am I right?
Yeah, now he wants Moxley.
Yeah, I mean,
you just called a shot, man.
Those three guys, they're like a team, right? Do they have a name?
That's their stable. They're Strong Style. So when we go, speaking of Strong Style, we just like to call it out because they literally name themselves a stable that's the same name as our show. And so we need the free advertising.
Well, then, speaking of Strong Style, how about this match? Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, I'm happy to see Ren Narita in a position. He is like, we do still think of him as a new guy, but actually when I watch, there's Junta Miyawaki he's really new. That's neither here nor there, but I think it puts Narita in this new position of like, he's finally a senior to someone. I can see him and Miyawaki getting violent. Miyawaki's interesting, and I think he and Desperado are the lucha factors in this match. Miyawaki's been to Mexico twice, actually. He doesn't work he's been with companies like IWRG. And one really interesting thing about this kid, I mean, he looks so different compared to just 18 months ago. His hair, his look, his tights. And Noah's really sent him into the deep end out in Mexico. His second match ever in Mexico was a cage match.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, so he's able, he's talented, he's new, he's young, and you'll be able to tell because Sugiura, on the other hand, fantastic look for somebody who just turned 53 last week.
He was great.
Amazing.
Incredible. Yeah.
53.
The thing about Ren Narita is really interesting. I think I have deja vu about having this conversation with you, Justin, a while back. But he had a match with Juice on New Japan Strong back in October. That was this no disqualification hardcore match. And after that match was over, I've never looked at Ren Narita the same way. Like, this dude was ready and he has arrived. And ever since then, I've just looked at him with this legitimacy. He had the tournament going for the New Japan TV title, and we were ready to be like, okay, if he beats Zack Sabre Jr., I'm fine with it. If Zack Sabre Jr. wins, I'm fine with it. But really, his stop has been losing the title and getting his ass beat by Okada and the two other guys, Ishii and Tanahashi. But his ascent has been quicker than the other four of the Young Lions of this generation, I think.
Yeah.
I think part of it was when a couple years ago, I remember he was a replacement in one of the best of the Super Juniors. It might have been around either pre-pandemic or during the pandemic, or it was something happened where he got a slot when he was still really new and much skinnier, and no facial hair. And I remember from there, thinking, wow, this kid's new. Is he ready? And that's been answered time and time again. And I'm really looking forward to I want to see him and Sugiura get into it. I think they will hit each other very hard.
And of course, once again, Desperado is looking for respect because they misspelled his name on this graphic right here.
Desperado.
El Desperado on this.
Hey,
thing.
you know what? That is a New Japan issue. This is a New Japan production.
That's a New Japan slate, I bet. I didn't even notice.
Put my hands up. My hands are up. But
you don't know anything about it.
They don't even use L's.
Well, I gotta say though, it's R's and L's in Japanese often it's difficult because there's no approximation of anything similar in Japanese language. So to a lot of people, it sounds different. So to a lot of people, I correct it all the time too. It's anybody that is not a native speaker of Japanese will have to do it. It's just what it is. It's silly to us, but it's also, I think, common enough where I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
So, Desperado. Desperado showed up for Noah. There's actually a shirt that they're selling, and he was part of the Nosawa Rongai kind of retirement tour. He showed up on one of the Osaka shows. And I know there's a shirt being sold in the Noah store, Desperado Nosawa Rongai collab t-shirt. So yeah, he's an unpredictable guy. This one. This is my stuff. I like this one.
Yeah, this is the only. I think it's the only. Is it the only All Japan versus Noah thing on here? Because I think everything else has a New Japan presence in it. So
yeah, I think it's the only non-New Japan thing on the show.
Yeah, and of course, Go Shiozaki, just one of the top guys for Noah for a long time, been around there a minute. Katsuhiko Nakajima against Shuji Ishikawa and Hokuto Omori from All Japan. So, yeah, Go and Nakajima are some of the names that we've seen on top for Noah for a while. This is a little bit earlier in the card than they're used to being, but it should be a pretty good match, I think.
This could be the most hard-hitting match on the whole show, I would say. Ishikawa, I feel like he has always been able to be. I think he's a really talented guy who I don't know just quite why he hasn't broken through like to the tippy top yet. But I always have thought he's so talented and he's so sturdy. What a constitution on this man. Mm-hmm. So I imagine he and Shiozaki will trade hard chops. He's kind of he's a bit famous for the hardcore headbutt where you can kind of hear it in your own body. Oof. So beware of that. Hokuto Omori from All Japan is another guy who's super impressive. And when Minoru Suzuki stopped in earlier this year, he and Hokuto Omori were kind of teaming and working together too. I would put him in the Dan Tamura category because they're from the same class in the All Japan dojo. I think he's equally as talented. The main difference is Omori somehow learned to adapt to being a heel, just really naturally. He was with Jake Lee in Total Eclipse when Jake Lee turned heel. There's also when Omori turned heel or bad boy. He's a rough kid. I like that he's in this match, and I like seeing him with other rough seniors like Axis. So, yeah, I imagine this will be very violent, and I call it a purple match. I imagine a lot of purple chests afterwards.
That's a good descriptor.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the next one-on-one, Shota Umino from New Japan Pro Wrestling against Yoshitatsu from All Japan. Yoshitatsu's worked for everybody, including doing a few years in WWE, but don't hold that against him. He was back in Japan and doing some good work. But yeah, Yoshitatsu's worked for New Japan, of course, before. He's worked for everybody, really, just about every major company. So this is an interesting clash of generations here because Yoshitatsu from a different era than Shota, and so I'm curious to see what they end up doing with this one. Yoshitatsu against Shota Umino.
I don't have much to say about this one.
This could quietly surprise some people. Shota doesn't get a whole lot of singles matches, so I think the opportunity for him to have a strong singles match against a name that people are more or less familiar with is probably a good use of the spot in this match. So, I'm okay with it.
We'll see. Well, it's a good spot to get him a win. I think it would be. Yeah. Anything else would be a little nuts.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. A good spot for a singles match win.
Good spot for a win for Shooter. So next one, Kosei Fujita, Ichiban Sweet Boy, and Zack Sabre Jr. Ichiban Sweet Boy, by the way, is what I call my new puppy too. I call him that all the time. So it just seems to fit. So Kosei Fujita, the puppy of New Japan, and Zack Sabre Jr. against Chris Ridgway and Sean Legacy from the Noah group there. So what can you tell us about Chris and Sean? You mentioned Chris a little bit earlier here. He's been in the mix.
Ridgway, I know on Noah commentary, Japanese commentary, that is, there has been talk, like Ridgway and Zack Sabre is a kind of ultimate dream match for a lot of Japanese fans. I would say they're not the same, but the way they wrestle is similar. I think Zack is the bigger of the two now. And I think Ridgeway is similar, but is someone who is more reliant on strikes and submissions, although he can hang as well. Just seeing those two in the ring is probably worth the price alone, but we got these two additions. Fujita's great. I mean, for as young as he is, he's pretty amazing. I would say this is high level. But Sean Legacy, okay, now here's the guy. This is Marufuji's pick out of 40 wrestlers from last year in San Jose. There was a big tryout. Sean Legacy was the pick. And man, do I respect him.
Okay. I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that, Jeremy. Yeah. There was it was at a Rev Pro.
Yeah.
Not Rev Pro. No, that's in England. Revolution and West Coast Pro.
Yes. West Coast Pro in San Francisco.
Yes. So the San Jose school put on. There was a tryout last November during King of the Indies, and Nakajima and Marufuji were there to choose a new foreign Noah superstar, and a lot of known talent showed up. I mean, there were no chumps there. Sean Legacy was chosen. He's Marufuji's kind of pet project in a lot of ways, but this guy has gotten over like gangbusters already in Japan. He's a big fan of One Piece, the cartoon, and he does the same, I guess, gesture or logo that one of the characters does. Super. Oh. People love him. I would describe him as like he's got a body that's like almost like a Brian Cage type body, but wrestles like a top junior heavyweight would. He's another unpredictable, really unique, really charismatic guy. What's that?
You've kind of sold me on this match. I'm not going to lie.
No, I mean, he's special, and I'm interested in what you guys think too, how the crowd will react to him. He's got something that the Japanese fans really enjoy, and his athleticism is pretty unreal. I mean, for a guy that looks the way he does, he can jump very far and very high. I would really recommend him and Stallion Rogers singles match. It was maybe under 10 minutes from last week. They have the capacity to tear it up. And if you think that Sabre and Ridgeway is going to be like the inside part of the match, inside the ring, I think Legacy is the guy who's going to take it outside the ring. He likes to fly.
All right. So the last one on the main show, there's a pre-show match as well. But the first match on the main show, Tomohiro Ishii, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi, the Chaos Group, against Masa Kitamiya, Daiki Inaba, and Yoshiki Inamura from Noah here. So you're seeing Masa Kitamiya, and you're seeing Ishii, and that's not a mirror image. It just seems like one. So of course you're going to put these two in there. Inaba, no small fry himself. Inamura. So we're looking at a lot of hard shoulder blocks, clotheslines. We're going to be hitting each other pretty stiff in this one, I think, right?
I think so. I think it's interesting too because you're dealing on the Noah side. Kitamiya has been former tag team champion. He and Inamura right now are a new tag team called The Tough. Kitamiya and Inaba were former tag team champions earlier in this year. And you got Bishamon on the other side who are, it's a tag team specialists match. And it just so happens that it's kind of like, you could also call it a butcher shop match. There's a lot of meat.
A lot of it. Yeah, a lot of
it. It's like you go back to the freezer, it's all the carcasses hanging. This is that match.
Yeah, there you go. It's going to be meat. Yeah, it's going to be stiff, and I think probably looking at this, you have the IWGP Tag Team Champions Ishii as part of the never openweight 6-man title. So I think this will be a New Japan win here. I think we're probably going to be seeing quite a few New Japan wins because I think they have the leverage. But yeah, this is one that you're just going to see a lot of fierce shots, a lot of the Bushido contests. We're going to square off in the middle of the ring and forearm each other, and there'll be plenty of that in this one. And that's the kind of match that'll kind of get the crowd into it a little bit. They'll hear that smack of the forearms and the chops, and get the crowd up and running there. So, and then here is the pre-show match. This is Yo and Ryusuke Taguchi from New Japan teaming up with All Japan's Black Mensore and Ryo Inoue against the Noah crew of Atsushi Kotoge, Seki Yoshioka, Alejandro and Super Crazy. And two of those things are not like the others. Of course, I'm on Super Crazy. Some Lucha Libre guys. And Super Crazy was wrestling when I first got into Lucha Libre when I was in college. And I was in college a long-ass time ago. So Super Crazy's longevity in this business, pretty impressive. He's still out there wrestling. And, I mean, I'm sure, this will just be an opener, fast-paced type of match. And I'm sure Taguchi will do a little comedy in there, and it'll just kind of get the crowd warmed up. Not sure we're going to see this one on the main show or not. I believe it may be in the pre-show bit, but this is not officially part of the main card. This is the early match.
I imagine it'll be fun. Kotoge and Yoshioka are former junior heavyweight tag team champions, and I really think that people need to keep their eyes on. If you're going to keep an eye on one person in this match, it's take Yoshioka. I don't know who's a faster wrestler than him right now. Just the sheer speed, the velocity of some of the stuff he does is worth the price of admission alone. It's cool to have. It's going to be a cool flying match. Great to see Super Crazy back. I mean, a lot of the stuff Super Crazy still does. He's a different size now, but it looks the same. The execution is there. I wanted to also put over Inoue. I think he's a young All Japan guy who's very, very talented. He's got a nice martial arts base as well. And I think he just started dyeing his hair blonde. His charisma is now coming through. It's allowed to come through now. So I'm looking forward to see how he interacts with all these guys too.
I think Super Crazy goes all the way back to the boom period of AAA wrestling in the mid-1990s back then, I think so.
Yeah, Hysteria.
Yeah, it's like when I went to that with Justin. I was laughing about this when I went to that Korakuen Hall show. In one of the early matches, there was a guy who was looking great and moving around, but he was definitely more of a veteran and an older guy. And I'm sitting there looking at him, and my girlfriend doesn't know anything about wrestling. I'm just like, oh goddamn, that's Omori. Like Omori is still wrestling, and he's still wrestling really well. And I'm just like, good grief. Sometimes these guys just have that kind of longevity. And Omori was doing well in that match, and Yoshi and Super Crazy still going, and it's just kind of funny that some guys can just keep on going year after year after year like they can. It's so it'll be fun to see Super Crazy here too.
So Justin, thank you so much for coming on and doing this preview with us. Your insight was fantastic, and it truly appreciated.